Hey guys, and welcome to this live webinar jam webinar on crowdsourcing software. I'm glad to have you guys here. Welcome. I know you guys could be in a lot of different areas. There's a lot of different groups you could be going to, so we appreciate you spending the time with us today. We did this webinar about 2 weeks ago, and we've had real success with it. The only issue was when we did it 2 weeks ago, I'm out in the woods and had like a storm and kind of was going in and out. So we wanted to redo it again. There was a lot of people that asked that if we could do it because they couldn't hear some of the things that we were saying and going over. So we want to make sure, because this is such an important project that we're putting out there, we wanted to make sure that everyone could get this information and understand what this concept is and what we're proposing as a project to work together in a JV adventure. First of all, could everybody hear me okay? Am I coming over okay? Can everybody hear me? If you can hear me, just say yes, you can hear me. Great. So again, guys, for those that don't know me, this is also being broadcast live on YouTube. So if you want to check it out on YouTube, David's going to post a link in the chat so that we can have the link there and you can watch it live on YouTube. Unfortunately, on YouTube, you will not be able to ask questions. But for those of you that do not know me, my name is John Sr. I am a family man. I have married to my lovely wife, Esther. I have 2 children that are grown up and 2 grandchildren. One of the things about me is I'm a very successful entrepreneur. I've been doing business and retail for over 30 years. I've been full-time doing as an entrepreneur for the last 4 years plus. I left a corporate job about 4 years ago. Never looked back from it, and continue to be successful at what I'm doing and continue to build projects and things that help people. One of the things about me is I do sell on Amazon. I am a multi-million-dollar seller on Amazon. Not to brag, just to show you that it can be done by anybody if you put the work in. And also, some of the things about me, if you don't know me, is I truly like helping others succeed. This is why I'm here. This is why I do what I do and put these projects together. And this is why I get excited for the things that I put together for you guys. I really want to see you succeed. I'm here to help you. I'm here to do anything I can to make sure that I get you the right information and get you the right tools that help you succeed. I want to introduce to you my joint partner in this venture, who is my software developer. His name is David Hesser, and David has been building software for over 30 years. I'm going to let David go into that a little bit more in a few minutes. The other thing about David is is the only one that has built my software for my fulfillment center, the My Fulfillment team. He has built it from the ground up. David really knows his business and software, and without what he built for us, we can never have grown as fast as we did in the fulfillment center and be able to take our business to the next level. So I'm very excited to have David here today. I'm going to have David introduce you to him, come in and introduce himself and talk to who he is and tell you a little bit about himself, and then we're going to get right to this presentation. We don't want to hold you guys up any longer than we have to, but we want to make sure that you get everything in this presentation and realize the excitement and the opportunity that you have. David.
Thanks, John. Welcome, everybody, the people that are watching us live and the people that are going to watch this replay in the next few days and week or so. You should see a screenshot right now. If you tell me in the chat if you can see that. Some Lego building blocks. Appreciate it. Make sure we have a live feed of that. All right, that looks good. As John said, my name is Dave Hesser. I'm online today from Phoenix, Arizona. Our monsoon season is back. It's 110, high humidity, so it's a lot of fun out here cleaning up the mess every time the winds blow through and the storms. But it's part of living in this interesting place. We appreciate you spending time with us today, and we believe that we have a prime opportunity for you to consider. We have quite a bit to cover, and we want to answer a few questions at the end, whatever you have, and feel free to drop questions into the chat box as we go, and we'll handle them as we can. As John said, There's a YouTube link for this. I am putting that onto the chat. You can watch this later as a replay, or right now this is streaming on something called Webinar Jam that goes through Google Hangouts. That doesn't always give the best resolution because it goes through a lot to get to you. So if things are getting a little bit fuzzy, you can go over to this link on YouTube and everything's real crisp and clean over there. But as John said, you won't be able to do comments and stuff unless you have a couple windows open and can go back and forth. But it is pretty crisp over there, and I can tell you we actually have more people watching it on YouTube than we do on the Webinar Jam over here, because John had put this out before. So whichever one works best for you, and this link will be available on our website after. Actually, it's up now right now, so you can watch this anytime if you miss anything. Now let's get rolling. Let's work through our presentation here. Talk about why we're here today. We're here to talk about time and money as e-commerce sellers. Actually, we're here to talk about time and profit, because that's really what we're doing here. As an e-commerce seller, you are always looking for ways to maximize these two things. There's never enough time, there's never enough profit. Most of us run with a pretty lean operation, and there's always a million things we want and need to be doing for our business success. We have a lot to juggle. Sometimes those things we're juggling get pretty big. And time is probably the biggest thing we struggle with, the cost of time. There's a huge cost to our time to so many of the things we do as e-commerce sellers. As an example, I'm processing inventory. I need to ship it into Amazon FBA. Do I use Amazon's tools for that? Honestly, rarely. I do if I need to, but those aren't always the best solution. Do I use a third-party tool to process that inventory? Some of them are pretty good, some of them not so much. What's the difference? The bad processes and the bad tools that we pick up to help us do the things that we want to do, why are they bad? Well, truthfully, they're almost always bad because they were designed and developed by people who don't actually do the process. We, as sellers, do the process again and again. We understand the steps that we have to go through to get from product to sale, and we're always trying to optimize that. How many times have you stopped after a long day of repetitious grunt work and thought, there's got to be a better way to do this? Every time you effectively automate a task, you optimize your business. Every tool that you acquire should increase your productivity and profitability, or it's a waste. You shouldn't be spending time with it. Every poor tool or a tool that doesn't give you results is a negative result for you. I've purchased many tools that didn't deliver or just put a different face on the same data and functions that I could get elsewhere. They take whatever happened on Amazon or eBay and they repackage it and they present that to me as something that's better. Sometimes it is, but usually it's not. Every one of you has probably been there if you've been doing this for very long. How many times have you said, who designed this thing? Sometimes with some pretty extra colorful adjectives that we're not going to use here. Did they have any idea what it actually takes to do this thing I'm trying to do? And you think, I could make this better. And sometimes you think, my dog could do this better. You also know that you have to constantly evolve your selling business or you risk becoming obsolete. Every time a new technique or a new platform comes out, you get an email and everybody's pitching it to you, comes out in the wild, here's a new way to do something, a new way to sell, a new way to source. You have a window of time where that's useful before everybody else is doing it, and the power of that tool diminishes, or the power of that platform diminishes. Sometimes those things only last for a few months, sometimes for a few years, just depends on what it is. But over time, it's going to diminish. I was one of the first wave of FBA sellers years ago. I was selling on FBA within 3 months of it becoming available. Fulfillment by Amazon is still one of the best things going, but it's a vastly different beast today compared to what it was back then when I started. Everything changes. There's whatever 3 or 4 or 5 million FBA sellers, depending on what Amazon decides to tell us, or 10 or 15 million, who knows. Again, my wife and I were avid retail arbitragers for about 3 years, a few years back. Now that's still a viable sourcing tool, but it's a much different tool now than it was then. We could pick up just about anything and flip it online and guarantee we were going to make money. You can't do that today. You have to be much more selective. We have changed how and when we utilize that as a sourcing tool, and that's another example of why evolving is so critical. We're also susceptible to our platform providers, whether it's Amazon or eBay or Rakuten or whatever it is. If you've been doing this for any amount of time, you have had to deal with a system change by a provider that required you to make a major adjustment to how you were doing business. All of us who do FBA know that inbound shipping changes dramatically when box contents are required in November. Now, Amazon's been talking about it since last fall, but it will be required in November. Really, in November, in the middle of our selling season, they're going to make such a critical change required. But that's the way this works. And so if you're not prepared for that, that's going to have a big impact on your business. And do you like the tools that Amazon has provided? Or are there third-party tools you're looking at? You've got to deal with those issues as they come up, and you have to be nimble. You have to evolve with your business. What's your profitability? Do you know? You should. It's a fundamental business priority, knowing your profitability. Once you know and understand it, you can optimize it. Let's say my profit margin is 50%. That's fantastic, right? Well, if my cost of goods is $5 and I only sell 2 a day, is that worth it? What if my cost is $50 and I sell 2 a day or 2 a week? Is it worth it? Those are big decisions. Those are critical core business decisions that you all have to make every day. But those decisions can only be made if you have the information that you need to make that decision. So let's say you want to develop some software or put together some software to help you do something. Software development is a costly effort, and it requires a level of expertise and knowledge and time commitment that most of us do not have. My companies have built software systems for $10,000 and other systems that over time have cost millions. Every one of those solutions required us to understand the business it was meant for. Otherwise, our solution had minimal chance of success. So you have knowledge of your business and your needs. How do you take that and create a solution? Well, you need those other components. You need that expertise and knowledge and time and money and someone that can work with you to do that. As I've told many of my clients over the years, we can build just about anything. The question is, what will it cost and how long will it take? And are there trade-offs in there that make the solution more acceptable? Let's talk about your data. One of the struggles that we have as Amazon sellers is obtaining useful access to our data. Amazon hoards that data. They're most online platforms do, but Amazon really hoards that data. In fact, they make it pretty clear that they own that data. Well, it's also our data. And it has to be, whatever access we have also has to be a useful level of access. Because in many cases, it's hard to tell if the data that we get from Amazon is responsive to what we're looking for and accurate because of the way it's presented to us. Amazon's not unique in this regard. Every platform does this, but they're pretty good, unfortunately, at making the problem pretty serious for us. So how hard we have to work to get useful data is another issue that we all have to consider against our cost of time and our ability to make good decisions. How many of you have struggled to pull data down from Amazon or eBay into a spreadsheet and then spent time manipulating that data to get some useful intelligence on profitability, or tried to pull data cleanly so you could enter into your accounting software the information you need? I've been there way too many times. You pull the data down as a CSV file, you load it into a spreadsheet, you fix a bunch of columns, you delete some other columns you don't need, you do some sorting, you do some sums, it's not quite right, you keep moving it around, you try it again 3 other ways, and you finally get something that pretty much gives you what you want and it's useful after a significant amount of time. So you've done that whole thing and set it up, and then you have to do the whole thing over again when you next need the data in a week or a month or a quarter or whatever it is. Not generally the best use of your time. All of us are in business and we need relevant data to make the proper decisions. Obtaining good, actionable data with minimal effort should be a priority for all of us. I don't care how you're sourcing, how you're selling, where you're doing it. Having access to the data that you need is absolutely critical. So that kind of tells you where we're starting as an issue here. The things that we recognize as something that we want to solve together. Let me step back a second and give you a quick bio about myself. John told you a little bit about himself. I've spent over 30 years developing and supporting technology solutions. I've had clients in a very, very diverse range of business types. For example, got a pharmaceutical client of over 25 years. Since the day they opened their business, I have been their primary technology solution provider. That client, using our software, processes thousands of claims daily and millions of dollars per month, all on platforms we developed, maintained, and evolved over time. Because in that period of time, you know, a lot of things have changed, and we've adapted to every one of those changes over time, and they are very, very profitable business. We also were, for about 15 years, the primary software provider for the majority of Senior Olympics games across the US. Our software ran all the registration for the games and all the management of the games. Started out as a PC-based solution for a few years, and then it became a web-based solution, and most of the games in the country used our software. We have built accounting systems for hundreds of businesses, because every business needs accounting. And as we sat down with clients over the years, many of them did not have a good solution for their accounting. Manufacturing businesses, legal businesses, education, sales, the whole gamut of businesses, we built accounting systems for all of them. I have owned or partnered in dozens of businesses over 25 plus years. I have consulted to hundreds and hundreds of businesses, helped them understand their own business, because a lot of people don't understand their business, helped them model it properly, and then worked with them to develop solutions that actually worked and enhanced their business model. My partners and I have sold on every type of platform and sourced from every type of source. Amazon, eBay, Sears, Rakuten, our own websites, every other one you can think of. We've done retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, closeouts, private label, everywhere where we can find product. Starting in the late 90s, we were developing sales sites for our clients and then ourselves, and everyone transitioned to eBay, and then transitioned to Amazon, and transitioned to FBA, and then transitioned into all the other platforms. So we understand the seller experience. We've sold millions of dollars worth of product. And that's an issue for me because you hear that all the time. So wait just a second and make sure that I clarify that. We've made millions of dollars in profit. We've sold millions of dollars worth of product, but we've also created millions of dollars, or we've sold millions of dollars in product, but we've also had millions of dollars in profit. And you always have to be careful when you're working with somebody that they don't tell you how much they've sold without clarifying how much profit they've made. Because it's easy to sell a lot of stuff. It's a little bit more difficult to make sure you're making money. Part of the seller experience. So what I'm pointing out in this bio here is that we understand the selling process, we understand business, and we understand creating technology solutions. That's a combination that's relatively unique, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. As John said, we've been working together, he and I have been working together for a few years now as we've developed the software for his fulfillment business. And every week it seems like we have a new solution that we talk about building. John comes to me and talks about something, I see something, seems like something that people could make use of. And we're going to build many of those solutions, but the more we talked, the more it seemed like a good idea to create a group that could help drive development and allow us to expand our resources even further. A group whose expertise and input could help us to craft the best answers to the needs that we all have as sellers. After a lot of discussion and a lot of thought, this is that group. So finally, in my bio, that's a little bit of an aside. So this really helps you understand where I'm coming from. I want to introduce one of our managing partners. Now, I do a lot of presentations and I regularly show family pictures and such in my presentations because, like many of you, my family is central to my life. And this time, I wanted you to meet Inara. Here she is at 8 weeks old. She's an English Mastiff. Here she is at 3 weeks old. Or I'm sorry, 3 years old. She's 170 pounds of joy. And her job here is to coordinate nap time because she has a PhD in relax. And that's a critical component when you're in business. So meet Inara. She'll be around if you're involved in our group. So let's talk about how we do what we do with our software development. We program to an API. It's an application programming interface. Every one of these platforms has an API. Amazon, eBay, Rakuten, they all do. And it's a interface that allows us to access the back-end data and the back-end processes so that we can pull sales data, we can create product information, we can create shipments, all those things that we need to do our business. Some of the APIs are more advanced than others. Amazon's is huge. And we've spent many years learning the intricacies of working with that interface. They're all different. They all have a significant learning curve to understand how to make them work. And they're all a moving target. So we spend a lot of time keeping up with the things that have changed that unfortunately the platforms don't always tell us they've changed. We find out after the fact. It's part of the fun. Our approach to development, it's important to understand how most e-commerce tools are developed. Many of the tools that are out there today were started by somebody in the selling business who saw a need. They went out and they found a developer, and then they spent a lot of time and money producing a solution. If they had enough time and enough money and they were doing the right thing, it was a success. If they didn't have enough of either one of those things or any of those things, didn't always work out. We never heard about it, but the ones that did work out are the tools that you're used to seeing today. Not understanding business concepts and the technology concepts makes for an inefficient opportunity, and that's where the failure point is for most of those, because somebody might have a great idea, but they're working with a developer and they can't figure out how to get it to work together right. Our approach that we've evolved over many, many years is an iterative approach and a fast approach. We've developed a platform that allows us to modify and develop new components much quicker than most people can, so that we can try things out and see what works best, interface with our clients or our partners, and quickly work ourselves out to a common solution, rather than presenting a problem to a developer, having them go off for 6 weeks and come back and show us something that honestly had nothing whatsoever to do with what we were looking for. They just didn't understand what the question was. Again, we understand business, we understand selling, we understand technology. That's the combination that you need to make this work. If I do not understand the process you go through to identify a product to sell, or how to source that product, or how to acquire that product, or how to package that product, or how to ship that product, how to market that product, how to sell that product, how can I build you a solution that works best for you? And that's a process that we have to make sure we go through properly. And because we understand all those pieces, we're in a better position to ask the right questions and find the right solutions. The last part to our concept that's critical, it's the way I've always run my businesses all these years, is communication. You absolutely have to properly communicate between the different entities involved in things, or you're never going to come up with the right solutions, and you end up with problems. So let's talk about the engine that we want to use to drive this group. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, or the late 80s, I guess, there was a Silver Screen Partners was a investment engine that was created, and you had to go through all the normal investment things back then. But it was used initially by HBO and then picked up by Disney to fund a lot of the movies back then, especially as Disney came out of their hiatus. They kind of stopped doing movies, and obviously that launched them into the mega movie producing machine that they are today, where they're pretty much just printing money. But it was, in essence, a group of investors that HBO and or Disney used to fund specific movie projects, and then those investors got a return on their money afterwards. And so it was pretty much you had to be part of an investment cycle to do it, but it was one of the original concepts behind a crowdsourcing. And that's really what we're talking about now, because in the last less than 10 years, crowdsourcing and crowdfunding has become a significant engine to drive development of games and movies and videos and software, all kinds of stuff. If anybody has an idea, they put together a product definition, and they put it out there, and they look for investors that want to come in. Usually the investments are a low dollar amount. You know, you get so much for $5, you get so much for $100, you get so much for $150. But it's combining investment money from a larger number of people to help get a product up off the ground. And we've all heard examples of Kickstarter and Indiegogo and GoFundMe, and there's a dozen other platforms that out there that do similar type things. And generally, as an investor, you get to play the game or see the movie first or whatever it is, and you usually get a t-shirt or a mouse pad or something like that. But it's a pretty powerful engine to get products going that would not have had a chance before. And while we're going to be doing those things, our desire to do them in a broader scope has led us to the concept of doing a crowdsource. So let's talk about what it is we want to do with this group. We are not interested in creating solutions that have already been done unless it integrates directly into a larger solution. I don't see us building a scouting tool. There's a lot of scouting tools out there, a lot of really good scouting tools. We don't need to build another scouting tool. But we do want to make sure we cover a wide range of e-commerce needs. We're going to build tools that help people that source all the ways that you can source: arbitrage, wholesale, private label, liquidation, closeouts, all those scenarios, because it's all geared around acquiring inventory to sell. We're obviously going to do a lot of things with Amazon, but we don't want to just focus on Amazon, because it's never a good idea to keep all your eggs in one basket, as they say. So we want to expand our tools to work on platforms other than Amazon, so that you have the ability to not be restricted just to that platform. You don't have to, but when it makes sense, you should. We want to build tools that help with order management and inventory control and shipping and accounting and marketing. And when we talk about marketing, we want to help with Facebook, Pinterest, Google, and Amazon, because all of these things have got APIs that we can work with. We're also looking at build your own website. Every one of us knows that we should have our own website selling our products, especially if we're doing private label. We should absolutely be selling on our own websites, not just on Amazon, not just on eBay, not just on Etsy, not just on whatever. We should have it on our own website, because now we completely control the process. But not too many of us really have the time to do that work, because there's a lot more involved in that. We'd like to integrate some of that solution into the things that we build. So we're talking about a lot of stuff here. And your first question should be, well, what are we going to build? The first thing we're going to do is sit down with this group once we've closed the group out, sometime in the next few weeks, and we're going to do some focus groups, and we're going to see where everybody's at. And we're going to talk to everybody about some of the things that we're already doing that we could adapt or roll into solutions for the group and beyond. And we're going to make decisions about exactly what things we're going to develop and work on as part of this group. Now, what that means is that in this initial group, we're not necessarily going to have solutions that are available. We're not going to have solutions available right away, but we will be beta testing and working with you guys within just a month or a couple of months, 2-3 months, where we can give you access to things that start helping your business. And then as we bring those products to final status, we'll talk about what we're going to do after that. So there's a little bit of a ramp up, but we want you to be involved in that process, because we want to take advantage of the information and the expertise and the background that our members have. Because while we've done a lot of things, I learn something new I've been doing this for a long time. And every time I sit down with somebody else who is a seller, I will learn something new, guaranteed, because there's so wide a range of possibilities here. So let's talk about what this group is. It is the exclusive group of power e-commerce sellers. It is a very small exclusive group of e-commerce sellers. And this is the inaugural group. And it might be the only group. We'll have to see what happens, but we're going to move this group forward. But it becomes a premier membership then, because the people that are in this group will be part of the things that we develop going forward, as long as they want to be involved. Maximum 200 members. Other investors that we're talking to might become involved, so we might cut that group a little bit short. But we're at this point saying, hey, we want 200 people involved. Any more than that gets too big. So we don't want to get too many people involved, and it reduces the benefit that everybody gets out of it. We get too many people involved. But what it does mean is that those of you that do get in get a lot of opportunity, because it's such a small group. It's an annual membership. You'll renew every year that you're involved, and you'll continue to be part of our process as year after year we develop more tools and expand the tools we've already built and sell those tools and go forward. So we've talked about what our issues are that we want to solve. We've talked about who we are. We've talked about how we want to make this thing work. We've talked about the wide range of possibilities we could work on. We've talked about those of you that are going to be in that group. Let's talk about what membership means in this group. What's it going to mean if you sign up, if you're one of those 200 or so people that become part of this? You will be involved in the design and the beta process of everything that we build through focus groups and other mechanisms that will involve you in directly being a beta tester and working on things. You will be intimately involved as much as you have time for to help us make this right. You will have free use of the software that we develop as long as you're active within our group. If you drop out of the group, that will no longer, you'll have to move to paying for the software that you use, with one adjustment we'll talk about here in a second. You will be a member of our private Facebook group, and it's a group of only approximately 200 people or less. Pretty exclusive group, and we're going to share a lot of things within that group that no one else will get access to. When we take a product or a tool, software application public and start selling it, you will share in the revenue we generate from that as long as you're part of our group. Now, this isn't meant to be a retirement plan, but the point is that there's an opportunity to more than cover your cost of the membership in this, far more cover, just from the revenue share. And obviously there's a bunch of other things that will justify the membership cost. And because you're part of this small group with us, you will be on the front line with an advanced opportunity to be involved in future ventures that John and I come up with, that if you wish to be involved, you'll get first shot at it. So that's the basic idea behind what we're covering. Let's talk about a few little gritty details here. This is obviously a group that's going to be working on things before they go public. So you're going to sign a confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement that you're not going to go off and tell everybody else what we're doing, which obviously you want to do because you don't want to go telling everyone because it impacts our profitability position to be the first people doing some of the things we're talking about doing. It's a straightforward deal. It's confidentiality that says you don't say anything that we're doing and you don't disclose anything that we're doing. And likewise, we're not going to let any of your information get out as we learn, in the process of learning certain things about your business model. We don't go running around telling everybody else what you're doing. So it's a mutual agreement between us. This doesn't include ownership interest. If we were going to do that, we'd have to have a whole bunch of lawyers involved. We'd be talking about a whole much more money. It is a crowdsource. Your benefits are very significant, but they do not include ownership interest. There is a buyer's remorse thing because we're getting started here, and there's not something right away. If you're involved in the initial discussions and you're like, you know what, this just doesn't make sense to me. I don't have time, whatever, come back to us. We'll kick your money back. And quite honestly, if there's a point in time where you're really having a problem, you need to talk to John and I, and we will work something out with you. We don't want anybody involved in the process that's not actively involved and actively benefiting from the things that we're doing. That being said, the exact deliverables kind of have to be at the discretion of the managing partners because everybody's going to want something different. So we're working towards a common goal here so that there's functionality for everyone. If we don't happen to build a certain component of something that's exactly what you wanted, it's because the decision was made that not enough people would justify that specific thing. But we're looking for tools that have the greatest range of solutions for as many people as possible. Because you're in this first group, after year one, if you do not renew for whatever reason, because you're not going to have software from the very first moment, but only after, you know, a couple of months here as we start rolling out things for beta testing, we're going to make sure that you get to use the software for another year for free after that. It's just an actual added benefit because you're in the very first wave of this thing. Think about if you're in the first wave of this thing too. If there's 200 people in this group and 195 of them re-up, so there's 5 slots, we may or may not even open it up to anybody else. If it does make sense to open it up and it's financially beneficial to everyone, then we will do that. But that's a discussion we'll be having, and we'll be looking for input on all that. But we do want you to know that you will have an extended use of the software that we develop if for some reason you're stepping back. Real quick, Diana I'm going to answer this question real quick. Diana asked if we are going to be able to advertise our website by using this tool. I personally believe that building some marketing tools is one of the things that we should absolutely be addressing. And there's a couple of things that we already have in planning that we've been discussing that would help you to advertise a website or to advertise your products on different sites. And we talked about that in the scope thing about whether it's helping you interact with Pinterest or Google or Amazon sponsored ads or whatever it is. And look, we can't do all those at once. You know, I've got a pretty significant programming group, and the size of that group will be determined based on the amount of funds that we have available beyond what we're already doing. But yes, that is a target that we will be going after, but exactly which pieces will hit is going to come out in our discussion with all of you in the beginning. So let's talk about what this costs and some other minor details, but actually really we're just going to talk about what this is going to cost. As I said, it's a 1-year membership. You can make a single payment of $1,695, or you can make monthly payments of $166.25, which is $1,995 over a year. Our system is set up to handle both of them, and when you go to register, you'll pick which one of those options you want to work with, whatever makes the most sense for you. We're not doing 3 months or anything. We're doing either one payment up front or 12 payments. So let's talk about it. A benefits analysis.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Hey, let me just stop you 1 second there. Guys, so what David just showed, can you put that chart back up, David? So what David just showed about that chart of the yearly fee and the monthly fee, and I can tell you guys that I've had software built, and to get a piece of software that you're going, or several pieces of software to be able to use, and for $1,600 or even $2,000 a year in the monthly plan, it's just not feasible and possible to have any software that you're going to be able to use for those prices. Software that is going to be something that is going to be useful and can do a lot of different things and have a lot of different components like we're talking, it costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars so for the investment that you're investing to be able to have access to what David's talking about here is just tremendous, tremendous value. When he built the software for my fulfillment center, it was tens of thousands of dollars to be able to do that. So I just wanted to give you the perspective of what you're investing, and because of the crowdsourcing, what you're going to be able to have access to. All right, David, that's it.
Yep. Thanks, John. Let's give it a second. There, we caught back up. Okay, so let's expand on what John just said, and let's do a quick benefit analysis here, just so we can kind of put some perspective on when we talked in the beginning about these are things that we know are an issue. We're sellers. We have issues we need to solve, and while some of them get addressed by the platforms and some of them get addressed by other third-party tools, There's so many things that we need to do to really run our business. How are we going to get to that point? And if we're in this group, we've talked about a certain amount of money to be involved in this group and get the benefit of hundreds of thousands of dollars in development money for a much smaller cost. So let's just average out. It's a little bit higher than this, but let's just say your cost of membership, whichever annual or monthly you do, it's somewhere around $150 a month. It's whatever, 155, whatever. It's $150 a month, let's just say. What's the value of your personal time? Have you ever thought about what your personal time is worth? Is it worth $25 an hour? Is it worth 50? Is it worth 75? You know, depending on what you're doing, what could you bill out as if you were doing that? I mean, we all know lawyers bill out at $250, $300 an hour. My programmers bill out at a certain rate. When I do development consulting work, I bill out at $200, $250 an hour. There's a value put to that for your time. And for every hour that you spend working on that spreadsheet you're trying to do, or working on your accounting, or whatever thing you're trying to do to increase your e-commerce sales and generate income for you, there's a value to that. The value of other people's time that's involved in what you do. If you might have assistants or VAs or whatever that is, there's a cost value for them too. And a lot of VAs are pretty cheap, but they're still doing work for you with a certain set of tools at a certain dollar amount. And if you can make them more efficient with better tools, then you're saving a lot of money doing that. Time's money. It's what we've been talking about. So how many hours, if it saves you 5 hours in a month and your time is worth $25 an hour, how much does that save you? If you're paying out to somebody, how much is that saving you? The value of increased sales. When we generate new tools that allow you to increase your sales, what's that worth to you? If you currently average $5,000 a month in sales and you increase your sales even 5% because of the things that we develop here that you have free access to and that you've been part of helping us develop, that's $250 a month right there. The value of higher profit margins, because you actually will understand where your profits are if you don't now. If you currently have an average profit margin of 25% on that $5,000 in sales, and you raise that to 35% because you source better or you cut out some of the costs of getting your product to the marketplace, that's $500 right there, that 10% bump. It's also very possible that you're currently paying for tools that you will no longer need to pay for because we've built something that you get free access to and is better integrated into your business. So you add those things up and your ability to more than cover the cost of that $150 a month is easy. In fact, it's unlimited. Like everything else we talk about, it's up to you as the person using those things to use them. We can build all these things. You can be part of all that process, and you have to use them. And so the value to you will be dictated by that, by how you use it. It's like everything else out there. We can't do it for you, but we can certainly make things much better for you in the process. So on top of all that we've just talked about, like all the things that happen like this, we've also got some bonuses to talk about. Bonus number one is e-commerce training, accounting training that my wife Lisa and I have just finished developing. It's over 4 hours of video training and bonus material valued at over $500. But we picked that $500 because you have to put a value on it, but really it's much bigger than that. Because why do we do accounting? Well, it's like you got to do your homework when you're in school, or you have to do taxes because you have to do taxes. It's one of those things you have to do, whether you like it or not. Well, there's that like it or not part, but when you're doing it right, you recognize that proper accounting allows you to do cash flow analysis, profit analysis, and support your business decisions. And an example of how proper accounting is so critical to you from a profit point is to say, you have a U.S. corporation, assuming you're in the U.S., and please, I hope you guys have some kind of corporate structure. If you don't, that's something that gets talked about in the training. Doing this without a corporate structure is a dangerous way to roll the dice. But if you're a U.S. corporation and you earn $1 million in pre-tax profit, that's a pretty good year, but we're taking round numbers here. It'll work. Drop zeros or do whatever you need to do. $1 million pre-tax profit, you're going to pay $350,000 to the U.S. in corporate profits tax. If you then distribute the remaining $650,000 to a U.S. shareholder, that's you, that shareholder could easily pay almost $100,000 more in individual income tax. So already the government has taken nearly half of that profit. And that's before state taxes that can be really high depending on your circumstances and especially which state you happen to be living in. Obviously, some are much, much higher than others. So our training, so the point here is when you do proper accounting and you properly capture all of your expenses, if you're not doing proper accounting and you miss the fact that you had $25,000 in some expense category, and now on paper your income profit is $25,000 higher, you're now paying taxes on something you shouldn't have had to pay for. So you've got, and if you don't do proper accounting and then take that information and give it to your CPA so that they can optimize or minimize your taxes, you're leaving money on the table. So that's one reason why you have got to do proper accounting if you are in business. Now, our training is strictly based on the needs of an e-commerce seller and specifically walks you through having an e-commerce business, and the primary examples are based on doing Amazon sales transactions, and Lisa takes you through different ways to do that depending on how much work you want to do and how much information you want to pull out. But we help you to understand the trade-offs of the things you need to do. So that's bonus number one. That's worth at least $500, but honestly, if you're not doing proper accounting right now, it's worth far more than that. Now I'm going to let John talk about number 2 and number 3. You there, John?
You want to put them up so I have them? David? David, can you unmute for a second?
Yeah, 2's up.
All right. So how do I see it if I'm on
You know what? You can't see it. Sorry, folks. This is an interesting feature in Webinar Jam. You only get to see the screen of the person talking.
All right. Well,
This is the monthly group coaching calls, John.
Monthly, yes, monthly group calls from David and myself. So basically, one of the bonuses is we're going to get in there and we're going to do some group calls and some training to help you in your businesses and be able to analyze them and kind of see where you're at and what you need help in as far as bonus number 2. It's like a coaching call. And I know for coaching calls, I get anywhere from $250 to as much as $500 an hour. I've had somebody pay me for it. So it's something that we want to add as a bonus. So the people that come in here, we'll give you the option to get that coaching from David and myself. It could be a group coaching thing on a webinar type thing, or some way we get together and just actually talk to you. It'd be hard to do it for one-on-one for 100 or 200 people, but we actually are going to throw it in as a bonus so that we can kind of look at your businesses and kind of help you in any way we can.
Okay, John, and the third one is your new book.
I'm really excited about this one. For those of you who know or don't know of Jim Cochran and Skip McGrath and some of the big people out there, Jay Bain and some other ones that are out there, and what I did is I wrote a book. I came up with an idea to write a book with Ryan Rieger, who I partnered with before. He's one of my business partners, and we co-authored this book. It's called Circle of Influence. It's coming out real shortly. We're excited about the people that have decided to join in this book. There's a lot of multi-million-dollar sellers in here. And what excites me more about this book is because it's exactly what it is, a circle of influence. And Jim Cochran, Skip McGrath, and all these that are in this book, including myself and Ryan's story, we're going to share with you our mentors and who we follow and why we follow them and what's made us successful and our do's and don'ts that we've learned in the business. And I think that this book is going to be huge for the simple reason is you've got big time internet sellers and big time people out there, Skip and Jim and others that are in this book that have shared their stories and are willing to help you so that maybe something in their story you can relate to, and it'll help you grow as a person and hopefully help you grow in business. I'm real excited about this, and we are going to be throwing this into as a Kindle version when it comes out, so you'll be able to get that book. And again, it's not on the market yet. It will be shortly, and it's one of those books that I'm really proud of because I always wanted to do a book on the circle of influence and why it's important for you to be able to have that circle and what it means to have a circle of influence. All set with that, David.
Okay, thanks, John. All right, let's let the screen come back here so that everyone can see. All right, so bonus number one is the accounting. Bonus number two is the monthly group coaching calls, as John talked about. We'll be talking about e-commerce issues, business issues, the kinds of things that you guys want us to talk about. John's book, which I'm really looking forward to because I know most of these people and their stories are fascinating. That's going to be very, very useful, motivational information for all of you. And then our last bonus, a year's free membership. And we're going to do this via drawing. The first 100 people to join will be entered into a drawing, and the winner will receive their first year membership for free. So you're going to sign up, and you might be in for free. Now, if we continue forward and we get 200 people in, which we're hoping to do because we really want that input and that synergy, but we're going to see where that leads us. We're going to, if we get to 200 with our group, we're going to do it again, and everyone will be in that drawing. So the first 100 people will actually get 2 shots at a freebie, and the second 100 people will get 1 shot. So no matter what you pay on this thing, bonus number 4, if that 1 or 2 people that wins, you're in for gold. All right, so that's our bonuses. We think the bonuses more than cover the cost of being involved, and we absolutely know that our actual product does. And there's a couple people that are already signed up that have asked, yes, you get all these bonuses. And you actually already should have gotten an email from us earlier this week. So yeah, you guys that have already signed up from our webinar a couple weeks ago are already in that first drawing. So that covers everything. So here's your big moment. What are you waiting for? Let's talk about the registration process.
Hang on 1 second, David. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Guys, what David's talking about, the bonuses too, as being part of this inaugural group, we're not going to stop there. We want to continue to add value. So we're going to continue to increase this and add things as we see fit that come along. We really want to make sure that everything we're doing and everything that we're offering helps you grow your business and grow it as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. All right, David.
Right. Thanks, John. Okay, so most of you got here by signing up through the sign-up page that you got a link either from some group you're in, or John sent it out, or it was on John's Facebook group. To sign up, you go back to that exact same page, and I'll give you another link here at the bottom that does the same thing. But if you came to this via some other group, you can go through that link again and whatever works, and you'll end up at our registration page. Read through that information we have on there. This replay will be up there. In fact, it already is. And you can go through and get whatever other information you want at that point. You then, at the bottom of that page, you choose how you want to pay, annual or monthly. Then there's a couple fields you need to fill out, and it talks about instructions on there, but I want to point out a few things. If you were referred to us in some way so that we can help group our people together here, type some information in there, let us know where you came from. And you don't have to put something in that field, but if you came from the My Fulfillment team or the My Inventory team Facebook page, you can put MFT Facebook or whatever in there. Just kind of helps us understand where everybody comes from. You're then going to fill out the other fields. You're going to put in an email address, and you're going to put in a password, and then you're going to submit that. And like every other registration system on the planet, we're going to take that information and we're going to shoot you out a confirmation email, and it's going to come from corp@ribllc.com. RIB LLC happens to be one of my companies that does processing, and that's why it's going to go through there. You need to make sure that you look for that email, because if you do not get that email and click on the link to do the confirmation, you're not completely registered. And because you probably have never received email from ribllc.com before, in fact, I can almost guarantee it, it might end up in your spam folder, like, especially if you're on Yahoo or Hotmail or one of those, because they just automatically throw everything they've never seen before into the spam folder. So if you don't see that email in 10 or 15 minutes, go look in that folder, because that's where it was coming from. If you have a problem, email us at that address and we'll help you figure it out. But absolutely critical that you make that step, because then that will bring you back to a secondary registration screen where you will put in an address and payment information. That payment information and address need to work together. Primarily, that zip code needs to be the zip code that your credit card is associated with. Otherwise, our processing company is gonna throw an error on it and tell you that it doesn't match or whatever. And you can, if you have a problem the first time, you can retry that confirmation link again, and it'll bring the same thing up. And if you mistype a digit on your credit card or any of those things that can happen, just retry it again. And once you get it right, it'll go through. And again, if you really have a problem, email us at corp@ribllc.com. Now, you put that information in. Once it's good and you submit, you're registered. You're part of our group, and in the order that they came in, we'll determine the drawings and things like that. We are not charging your card immediately, because here in another couple weeks, and this all hinges on how things are going and what other things we're doing, but we're going to, in groups, start doing the confidentiality agreements. It'll be an online document that you sign. Those of you that have done it before know it's pretty straightforward. You'll read through it, digitally sign it, submit it, and we will do the payment, either the annual payment or the first monthly payment at that time. So don't panic that, they're going to hit my credit card today. It's not going to happen today, but it will happen when we do the confidentiality agreement. Here is a link, a short URL that will take you to that sign-up page. But as I said, this is posted in John's private Facebook group. It'll be in the emails that came from, if you're part of a referred affiliate group, those emails are there. Any of those ways you can get to it. So we now are going to open it up to anyone that has any additional questions. And yes, Ada, we'll let you know before we charge the card. But I think, having dealt with a lot of the questions we had last time, we made sure we answered all those questions this time, so we might not have as many questions this time. I'm gonna put the long link into the message here. If anybody wants to just click on it direct. Do we have any other questions that didn't pass through, John?
I'm not seeing any questions right now coming through. Guys, if you have any last minute questions, we'd love to be able to answer them for you. If you're on the fence and there's something that you're needing to have answered that we haven't answered, I think we completely went through this thoroughly, and I think that a lot of what this presentation was, basically, like David said, from the last time we did this, a lot of questions, and I think that David thoroughly went through them and answered them more thoroughly this time because we knew the questions. So, but if you do have any, this is the time that we'd like to answer them for you and see if we can get those questions out of the way.
The confidentiality forms, when we close out the first batch, whenever that is, it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks probably, just depending on how fast things go and some of the other things that we're working on. That's when the confidentiality and the first charge will happen, but you'll have plenty of notice to do it. And it's if you have any questions, all you'll need to do is email us and contact us, and we'll be setting up the Facebook group around then too.
Guys, also, while we have you here, if you feel this is for any other sellers that you know that would help their business as well, feel free to share the link that David gave you with them. We are looking to build this out to help as many people as we can, and we do need the power of crowdsourcing to do this. Software, yes, I can have my own software done. David's worked with me for a long time, and he knows that he builds it and I pay him. But if there's a way where we can help more than just me and build this together, then that's what I'm all about. I love helping people, and I love building things and seeing people succeed, whether in their own personal lives or in their business life. So, guys, I also want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to us tonight. I know there's other things out there that you could be listening to. I really appreciate and value you guys for coming here and listening to this. David appreciates you as well. And if you do have any other questions, you know my Facebook group. You can go to my inventory team Facebook group. I'm glad to answer any questions that weren't answered here. Again, thanks for coming out. I'm going to sign off here in a second, and I'm going to give David the last word.
Yeah, real quick, Diana just asked about the email. And yeah, it'll come from corp@rblllc.com in the beginning. So we really appreciate your time. We usually try and keep these things to about an hour, and we're about 9 minutes past that, so went pretty good. As I said, if you have any other questions, and John said, hit us at the email or on the in the Facebook group if you happen to be a member of it. If not, I think you can ask to be invited. I don't think there's a huge restriction on it, but that's up to John. But we appreciate your time, and we look forward to working with a group of you to build some pretty amazing tools. Thanks.